I should have known something was off when she took so long getting ready. It was a Friday night in early October, crisp air sneaking through the cracks in our old Victorian house, the kind of evening that smells like fallen leaves and distant wood smoke. The kind that makes you want to pour a glass of bourbon, pull on a flannel, and forget the week ever happened. But not tonight. Tonight was Sarah's firm's annual fall mixer, a fancy-pants cocktail party at some overpriced downtown loft space with floor-to-ceiling windows and hors d'oeuvres shaped like things I couldn't pronounce. 10 more minutes, Sarah called from the bathroom, her voice muffled behind the door. I just need to fix my eyeliner. I sat on the edge of our bed, already dressed in my best navy blazer and Oxford shirt, tie loose around my neck like a noose I hadn't fully tightened yet. I glanced at my watch, 7:42 p.m. The event started at 8. We lived 20 minutes away, assuming traffic didn't hate us. But knowing Sarah, if she said 10 minutes, it'd be 30 before she emerged looking like she stepped out of a magazine. Not that I minded. Hell, most days I still got sucker punched by how lucky I was. Sarah Whitmore, formerly Sarah Callahan, was the kind of woman people turned their heads for. Long dark hair that caught the light like polished walnut, sharp cheekbones, eyes that shifted between green and gray depending on her mood. She wasn't just beautiful, she carried herself like she knew it without being smug about it. Confident, but warm. Smart as hell, managing partner at a mid-sized law firm downtown, specializing in corporate compliance. Fancy title, bigger paycheck than mine. And somehow, she picked me. Me, Ethan Cole. Software support technician at a company nobody's heard of unless their email crashes on a Monday morning. Average height, average build, receding hairline I've made peace with, beard I keep trimmed because it hides how lopsided my jaw is. I grew up in a blue-collar family outside Milwaukee. Dad was a mechanic, Mom taught 3rd grade until she retired. We weren't rich, but we were solid. Honest. The kind of people who wave at neighbors and return shopping carts. Sarah came from money, or at least what passes for money in suburban Chicago. Her dad was a surgeon, her mom chaired charity galas. They didn't understand why she settled for someone like me. I could see it in their eyes every Thanksgiving, every awkward holiday dinner where I fumbled with the silverware or accidentally called the Chardonnay white wine. But Sarah never made me feel small. Not once. We met 5 years ago at a friend's barbecue. Mutual friends. I was flipping burgers like I was auditioning for a cooking show. She was barefoot on the grass, laughing at something stupid I said about ketchup being the gateway condiment to poor life choices. We talked for 3 hours. She asked about my mom's garden, my brother's band, why I liked old horror movies. Nobody had ever listened to me like that before, not really. 6 months later, she moved in. A year after that, I proposed on a hiking trail in Door County, ring hidden in a peanut butter sandwich because I forgot the box at home. She said yes with mustard on her chin and tears in her eyes. 2 years of marriage. No kids yet, we were waiting, talking about it, not rushing. Life was good. More than good. It felt earned. Like maybe, just maybe, all the crap I went through in my 20s, the dead-end jobs, the failed relationships, the nights wondering if I'd end up alone, eating frozen lasagna in front of the TV, had been leading to this. To her. So when she finally opened the bathroom door, wrapped in a black dress that hugged her like a secret, her lips painted red and her perfume floating through the room like a promise, I smiled like a fool. "You look incredible," I said. She turned sideways, checking herself in the mirror. "Do you think it's too much?" "No. You always look like you're about to close a 7-figure deal." She laughed, soft and low, the sound curling around me like smoke. Then she walked over, kissed me just under the ear, her thing, and said, "You clean up nice too, Cole." I felt 10 feet tall. We drove into the city listening to old Springsteen. She sang along to 10th Avenue Freeze Out, slightly off-key, drumming her fingers on the dashboard. I watched her profile in the glow of passing streetlights, thinking, this is it. This is the life. The venue was exactly what I expected: exposed brick, Edison bulbs, waiters gliding through the crowd with trays of champagne and tiny food that probably cost more than my weekly grocery bill. Lawyers, mostly. Suits and smiles. People who talked loudly about mergers and quarterly reports and synergy. I stuck close to Sarah, nodding along, sipping club soda with lime because I was driving, pretending I understood what leveraged buyout implications meant. She introduced me around, "This is my husband, Ethan," and every time she said it, pride in her voice, I swelled a little. These people might wear better shoes than me, but they didn't have this. They didn't have someone who looked at them the way Sarah sometimes looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. We found a small table near the back, half hidden by a potted ficus. Good spot. Enough noise to feel part of the party, quiet enough to actually talk. "You want anything?" I asked, standing. "Just a sparkling water, lime," she said, smiling. "Thanks, babe." I made my way to the bar, nodded at a few guys I'd met earlier, grabbed 2 glasses, and started back. That's when I saw him. He was walking toward our table, tall, late 30s maybe, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. Salt and pepper hairstyle just right, square jaw, that kind of effortless tan people get from skiing in Aspen or sailing in the Caribbean. He moved like he owned the room, shoulders back, confident smirk playing on his lips. And he was headed straight for Sarah. My stomach dipped. Not jealousy, just confusion. Who the hell was this guy? Then I saw Sarah stand up. Smile. Not her normal smile. Not the one she gives me when I surprise her with flowers or make her coffee just right. This was different. Tighter. Nervous? Excited? I couldn't tell. They exchanged a few words. She touched his arm, just a brush, quick, but I saw it. I quickened my pace. By the time I reached the table, the man had turned toward me. Sarah's eyes flicked to mine briefly, almost guilty, and then back to him. "This is Nick, by the way," the man said, extending his hand. His voice was smooth, polished. "We haven't officially met." I set the drinks down, wiped my palm on my slacks before shaking his hand. "Ethan. Sarah's husband." "Ah, right," he said, grinning. "Of course. I've heard a lot about you." His grip was firm. Too firm. Like he was testing me. "Have you?" I said, forcing a smile. "Hope it was good stuff." "Oh, absolutely," Nick said. "Sarah speaks very highly of you." He said it like he was reciting lines. Perfect tone, perfect timing. But his eyes, they didn't match his words. There was something underneath. Amusement? Challenge? I looked at Sarah. She was staring at her drink, stirring the lime with her finger. "Nick's new to the firm," she said quickly. "Just joined the litigation team last month." "Is that right?" I said. "Welcome aboard." "Thanks," Nick said. "Still learning the ropes." Sarah's been incredibly helpful. He let the word hang there, helpful, like it meant more than it should. I felt a cold ripple go down my spine. "Well, we're glad to have you," I said, my voice suddenly dry. "Long as you don't steal all the big cases from her." He laughed, a deep, practiced laugh. "Wouldn't dream of it." Another beat of silence. The music pulsed around us, laughter bubbled from nearby tables, but right here, in this little circle, the air felt thick. "I should get back," Nick said, glancing at his watch. "Big deposition prep tomorrow." "Of course," Sarah said, a little too fast. "Rain check on that drink?" His grin widened. "Definitely." And then he was gone, weaving through the crowd like he belonged nowhere and everywhere all at once. I watched him go, my fingers tightening around my glass. When I turned back to Sarah, she was already picking up her sparkling water, taking a slow sip, avoiding my eyes. "That guy," I said carefully. "Seems friendly." She shrugged, finally meeting my gaze. "He's okay. Bit full of himself, but smart. The partners love him." "Aha." I paused. "You've had dinner with him?" Her brow furrowed. "What? No. Why would you think that?" "I don't know," I said. "You just seemed close. We worked together, Ethan." "That's it." She reached across the table, touched my hand. "Don't be weird." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But something had shifted. In the way she wouldn't look at me. In the way Nick had said her name, Sarah's been incredibly helpful, like it was a private joke. And in the way my gut, quiet for years, suddenly started screaming. The drive home was silent. Sarah stared out the window, arms crossed, her red dress glowing faintly in the dashboard lights. I kept glancing at her, trying to read her face, but she was closed off, distant. "You okay?" I asked after a while. "Yeah. Just tired." "You barely ate anything." "I wasn't hungry." Another mile passed. The city faded into suburbs, then darkness. "Do you trust me, Ethan?" she asked suddenly. I blinked. "What kind of question is that?" "A serious one." I hesitated. "Of course I do. Why wouldn't I?" She didn't answer. Just exhaled, long and slow, like she was letting go of something heavy. When we got home, she went straight to bed. Said she had a headache. I stayed up, sitting on the couch, replaying the night in my head. Nick's handshake. Sarah's touch on his arm. The way she'd offered to have a drink with him. And the worst part? I hadn't seen any of it coming. Because up until that moment, I truly believed we were happy. I believed we were solid. But now, sitting alone in the dark, the house too quiet, the taste of club soda still bitter on my tongue, I realized something terrifying. Maybe I didn't know my wife as well as I thought. And maybe, just maybe, that man wasn't just a co-worker. Maybe he was the reason she'd been coming home late on Thursdays. The reason her phone was always face down. The reason she'd stopped initiating sex 3 months ago. The reason she flinched when I hugged her from behind. I didn't want to believe it. But my jaw had dropped the moment he said his name. And it hadn't snapped back up since. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in bed beside Sarah, listening to her breathe slow, even, like she hadn't just had a stranger walk up to our table and shake my hand with the confidence of someone who'd already won. I stared at the ceiling, where the faint glow from the streetlight outside painted shifting patterns through the slats of the blinds. My mind was a broken record, spinning one moment over and over. Nick. 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 Who says we haven't officially met when they've never met before? That's what kept gnawing at me. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them. Like it was a joke only he and Sarah were in on. Like officially was doing heavy lifting. And then there was her touch on his arm. Brief, sure, but not casual. Not professional. It was familiar. The kind of gesture you use with someone you've laughed with late at night, someone whose shoulder you've leaned on after a hard day. Not someone you've only seen in meetings. I turned onto my side, careful not to jostle the mattress. Sarah was curled away from me, one hand tucked under her pillow, the other resting near her face like she was still a little girl. I watched the rise and fall of her back beneath the thin sheet, the dark hair spilling across the pillow. She looked peaceful. Innocent. But peace doesn't come with secrets. I thought back over the last few months, the subtle shifts I chalked up to stress, to work, to life. Little things. Tiny fractures in the glass that I'd ignored because the picture still looked whole. Like the Thursdays. Every Thursday for the past 3 months, Sarah had stayed late at the office. Deposition prep, she'd say. Discovery documents piling up. Or, team meeting ran long. Sometimes, client dinner. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was a senior partner, her plate was full. I worked from home most days, so I'd heat up leftovers, watch an episode of something dumb, and wait for her key in the lock around 9 or 10. But then the times started creeping later. 10:30. 11. Once, she didn't get home until after midnight. When I asked, she'd sigh, rub her temples, say, "God, Ethan, I'm exhausted. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" And of course I'd say yes, because what else do you say to your wife when she looks drained and you don't want to be that guy, the insecure husband, the one who checks her phone, the one who makes everything about him? So I swallowed it. But now, lying here, I started adding up the Thursdays. How many had there been? 12? 14? And how many times had she come home smelling faintly of wine when she'd sworn she hadn't been drinking? How many times had she left her phone in the kitchen instead of bringing it to bed like she used to? How many times had she jumped when I walked into a room while she was texting? I slid out of bed quietly, pulled on a hoodie, and went downstairs. The house was dark, but I didn't turn on any lights. I sat at the kitchen table, arms folded, staring at nothing. My breath fogged slightly in the cool air. October nights were getting colder. I tried to remember the first time I noticed the change. It wasn't overnight. Nothing ever is. Maybe it was early summer. July, maybe. We'd gone to a barbecue at Mark and Lisa's, our closest friends since college. Sarah had worn that blue sundress I loved, the one that brought out the green in her eyes. We danced to old Motown songs on their porch, drank cheap beer, laughed until our sides hurt. Around 11, I went looking for her. Found her on the back deck, alone, scrolling through her phone. Not texting. Just reading. Her face was tight, focused. When she saw me, she snapped it shut fast. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said, too quickly. "Just work stuff. A client email." I believed her. But now I wondered, what client emails at a backyard party make you freeze like that? I stood up, walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water. As I closed the door, I caught sight of the calendar on the magnetic board, Sarah's color-coded planner, the one she used to keep her life running like a Swiss watch. I stepped closer. Her work blocks were marked in black. Court dates in red. Personal appointments in green. And there, every Thursday for the past 3 months, a small green box labeled Yoga, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Yoga? Since when did Sarah do yoga? I racked my brain. She'd mentioned it once, months ago, something about stress relief, how some of the women at the firm were going. But she'd never followed through. At least, not that I knew of. And 7 to 8:30? That was prime late at the office time. Coincidence? Maybe. But my gut said no. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, and started typing. Thursdays, late at work but calendar says yoga. Yoga studio? Which one? Never mentioned name. Nick joins firm 3 months ago. Phone habits changed same time. Touch with Nick equals familiar. Smell of wine, no drinking at office events? Avoids eye contact after he leaves. It looked insane. Like the paranoid scribblings of a man losing his mind. But the facts were there. And the worst part? I didn't want to investigate my own wife. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to go back upstairs, crawl into bed, pull her close, and whisper, "Hey, I love you," and let it all go. But I couldn't. Because trust isn't just believing someone when they say they're faithful. It's not having to ask. And right now, I was asking everything. Morning came gray and damp. Sarah emerged from the bedroom around 8, wrapped in her robe, hair messy, eyes soft. She smiled when she saw me real this time, I thought, and kissed my cheek. "Sorry I was weird last night," she said, pouring coffee. "Long week. You know how it gets." "It's okay," I said, watching her. "You want breakfast? I can scramble some eggs." "No, thanks. I've got a deposition at 9. Need to leave by 8:30. She moved around the kitchen with her usual grace, efficient, graceful, always in motion. But today, I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. The way she kept her phone screen down on the counter. The way she hesitated before putting it in her purse. The way she didn't offer to kiss me goodbye. "You're sure you're okay?" I asked as she grabbed her keys. She paused, turned. "Why wouldn't I be?" "I don't know. You just seem distant." She sighed, walked over, cupped my face. "Ethan. I love you. This job is kicking my ass right now. But it'll slow down. I promise." Her hands were warm. Her voice sincere. "And yet." "I saw your calendar," I said carefully. "You've been doing yoga on Thursdays?" She blinked. "Oh. Yeah. Started a class downtown. Helps me unwind." "What's the name of the place?" She frowned. "Luna Flow." "Why?" Just curious. Never heard of it. It's new. Off 3rd and Maple. You should check it out sometime, great meditation sessions. I nodded. Cool. Maybe I will. She kissed me again, this time on the lips, quick and chaste, and then she was gone, heels clicking down the driveway, car starting, pulling away. I waited 5 minutes. Then I grabbed my keys and drove to Luna Flow. The building was real. A converted art gallery space with big windows, bamboo plants, and a sign that read Luna Flow Yoga and Wellness in elegant script. I parked across the street, engine off, watching. No cars. No students coming or going. The front door was locked. A sign in the window read, Class Schedule opening November 1st, PRA registration available online. Opening November 1st. Today was October 12th. Sarah had supposedly been going there for 3 months. I sat there for 10 minutes, heart pounding, cold sweat prickling my neck. She lied. Not just a little white lie. A full-blown fabrication. A cover story. And if she wasn't doing yoga on Thursdays, then what the hell was she doing? I didn't go into work that day. I called in sick, said I had a stomach bug, and spent the next 6 hours doing something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. Not all day. Just enough. I parked near her office building during lunch. Watched the entrance. At 12:47 p.m. she walked out, wearing sunglasses and a trench coat, carrying a takeout bag from a sandwich shop 2 blocks over. But she didn't go back to the office. She turned left away from her building and walked toward the riverfront district. I tailed her at a distance, staying on the opposite side of the street, ducking behind trees, praying she wouldn't turn around. She entered a boutique hotel, the Haven, one of those quiet, upscale places with ivy on the walls and no signage, the kind built for discretion. I stopped at the corner, pulse roaring in my ears. She disappeared inside. I waited. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. At 1:26 p.m. she came out. Alone. But her coat was buttoned differently. Her hair was slightly tousled. And when she walked, there was a lightness in her step, a bounce I hadn't seen in months. Like she'd just had dessert. Or sex. I didn't follow her back to the office. I drove home in a daze. Sat on the couch. Stared at the wall. And for the first time since that night at the party, I let myself say the words out loud. She's cheating on me. Not maybe. Not could be. Is. My wife, Sarah, the woman I loved more than anyone in the world, the woman I'd planned a life with, is having an affair. And the man's name is Nick. That night, she came home at 6:15 early for a Thursday. Hey, she said, hanging up her coat. I managed to wrap things up. Thought we could order in, watch that show you like. I forced a smile. Sounds good. We ordered Thai. Ate at the table. Talked about nothing, weather, a co-worker's engagement, the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom. Normalcy. Perfection. But every word felt like a lie. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself to take out the trash. Instead, I went to the garage. Popped the hood of her car. And there it was. On the passenger seat, crumpled, half hidden under a file folder, a receipt from the Haven Hotel. Room service. 2 glasses of Cabernet. 1 chocolate-dipped strawberry platter. Ordered at 1:05 p.m. Signed, N. Callahan. Callahan. Her maiden name. He was using her name to check in. They weren't just sleeping together. They were pretending to be married. I didn't confront her. Not that night. I couldn't. My throat was tight, my chest hollow. I felt like I'd been punched in the soul. Instead, I went online. Searched Nick plus law firm plus her company. Nothing. Searched LinkedIn. Found him, Nicholas R. Vance. Associate attorney. Joined 3 months ago. Education, Columbia Law. Previous firm, disbarred lawyer scandal, settled out of court. Left under mutual agreement. Red flags everywhere. Then I dug deeper. Facebook? Private. Instagram? Deleted. But I found an old post buried in a local news archive from a charity gala 2 years ago. Nick, arm around a blonde woman, caption, celebrating 10 years with Hartwell and Pierce. Love you, Jen. Jen was gone now. Divorced, according to a court filing I stumbled upon. Finalized 6 months ago. Free to play. And Sarah? She was vulnerable. Stressed. Feeling overlooked? Perfect target. I sat at my desk, photos of them both on the screen, Sarah laughing at a picnic, Nick smirking at a bar, two people who were supposed to be strangers. And I realized something worse than the betrayal. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't a mistake. This was calculated. He'd picked her. Groomed her. And I'd been blind. The next morning, I woke up different. Not broken. Not angry. Awake. I made coffee. Toast. Set the table. Sarah came down, surprised. You're up early. Thought I'd beat the rush, I said, smiling. How was your night? Good. Tired, but good. She kissed my cheek, poured her coffee. I watched her. And for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a woman living a double life. One foot in our marriage. The other in a hotel room with a man who called her by her maiden name. And I knew, with icy certainty, that this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Because if she thought she could lie to me, deceive me, unravel our life thread by thread without me noticing. She didn't know who I really was. And she had no idea what I was capable of. I didn't confront her. Not yet. There's a difference between knowing something is true and proving it. And I needed proof not just for me, but for the person Sarah used to be. The woman who once cried when she found out her college roommate had lied about an internship. The one who told me, honesty isn't just doing the right thing, it's refusing to live inside a lie. So if I was going to face her, I wouldn't do it with shouting or tears. I'd do it with facts. And so began the quiet war. It wasn't revenge. Not at first. It was reconnaissance. A man trying to understand how his life had been rewired without his knowledge. I moved through our home like a detective in my own museum of broken trust, noticing things I'd ignored before, the extra charge on her credit card from a downtown boutique, one she never mentioned buying from, the way she now took her phone into the bathroom, the sudden interest in self-care and personal time. But the Thursdays still ruled everything. Every Thursday, she left the house around 5:45 p.m. Dressed not for court or client meetings, but for something softer, flowing blouses, skirts that swayed when she walked, perfume that lingered long after she was gone. And every Thursday, she came back with that same lightness in her step, like gravity had loosened its grip on her. I didn't follow her again. Not physically. Instead, I went digital. Now, before you ask, no, I didn't hack her phone. I didn't install spyware. I didn't violate any laws. What I did was watch. And think. And connect dots she assumed were too small to matter. It started with her laptop. Sarah always left it open on the kitchen island when she made tea. Password protected, yes, but she had a habit. When she typed her password, she'd pause at the third character, like she was thinking. Over days, I memorized the rhythm. For keystrokes, short pause, 3 more, enter. I waited until she was in the shower one evening, wiped my fingers on my jeans, and tried it. SARAH 791. Her birthday. Simple. Predictable. The screen unlocked. My heart hammered, but I didn't look for messages. Not at first. I checked her calendar. Nothing new. Still yoga, LunaFlow every Thursday. Then I opened her browser. History was mostly work-related, legal databases, case law, news articles. But buried beneath them, a pattern emerged. Every Thursday afternoon, she visited the same website, Spa-Serene.com, a luxury wellness center offering massages, facials, and private couples retreats. Couples. I clicked through. One package stood out: Tranquility Escape, 2 hours, private suite, aromatherapy massage, champagne included. Cost, $280. Reservation required in advance. I scrolled to the bottom. Bookings must be confirmed via email. No walk-ins permitted. I closed the browser. Wiped the history. Locked the laptop. Sat back down. And felt the room tilt. She wasn't going to yoga. She wasn't even going to the Haven anymore. Now they were using a spa. A couple's spa. And judging by the price, this wasn't a quick lunchtime fling. This was ritual. Comfort. Intimacy. They weren't hiding. They were enjoying it. Friday morning, I called in sick again. I drove to Spa Serene. It was tucked into a quiet strip mall behind a dry cleaner and a vegan cafe, unassuming, elegant, the kind of place built for discretion. I walked in wearing a button-down and loafers, pretending to browse. A young woman at the front desk smiled. "Hi there. Can I help you find something?" "I'm looking into gift certificates," I said. "For my wife." She mentioned this place. "Oh, how sweet," she said, pulling up a menu on her screen. "We have several packages. Our most popular is the Tranquility Escape, great for anniversaries. When's the next available slot?" I asked. She tapped a few keys. "Next Thursday at 1 p.m. Or Saturday at 4. "Thursday," I said. "Is it usually busy?" "Always. We're fully booked 2 weeks out. Most clients reserve online." I thanked her, declined the brochure, and left. Outside, I leaned against my car, breathing slow. Thursday at 1 p.m. That was their window. And if they were booking in advance, there'd be a record. All I needed was access to her email. That night, I waited. Sarah sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I brought her a glass of wine, something I hadn't done in months. "You're being sweet," she said, surprised. "I miss us," I said quietly. She looked at me, really looked, and for a second, I saw guilt flicker in her eyes. Or maybe I imagined it. At 10:17, she yawned. "I'm beat. Big day tomorrow." "Night," I said, kissing her forehead. She took her phone to bed. I waited 30 minutes. Then I crept upstairs. She was asleep, phone resting face down on her pillow. I lifted it gently. Fingerprint unlock. She hadn't changed her passcode in years. I held my breath and pressed her thumb to the sensor. It unlocked. I opened her email. Searched Spa Serene. Found it. Sent last Tuesday at 8:43 p.m. Subject: Your Tranquility Escape reservation. Confirmation #SS7742. Dear Ms. Whitmore, thank you for reserving your Tranquility Escape session for Thursday, October 19th at 1 p.m. Your package includes side-by-side aromatherapy massage, champagne service, and post-treatment relaxation in the Serenity Suite. Please arrive 10 minutes early. Partner check-in required. We look forward to welcoming you and your guest. Attached, PDF confirmation. Guest name listed, Nick Vance. I took screenshots. All of them. Saved them to a folder in my cloud storage under the name Tax Receipts 2023. Put the phone back. Left the room. Sat in the garage for an hour, staring at the concrete wall. This wasn't grief anymore. This was clarity. Monday morning, I went back to work. Smiled at my coworkers. Fixed a server issue. Joked about football. Normal. Because the best way to fight a secret is with silence. Meanwhile, I kept digging. Checked her credit card statement online, our joint account. Found a charge, $280, Spa Serene Wellness Center, October 16th. 3 days ago. She'd paid for it. Not him. Which meant this wasn't just about lust. It was about investment. About building something together. Small luxuries, shared rituals, emotional deposits. And the worst part? She was happy. Not guilty. Not torn. Happy. I saw it in the way she hummed in the shower. How she bought new perfume. How she started doing her hair differently, looser, sexier. She wasn't trapped in an affair. She was living a second life. And I was the cover story. By Wednesday, I had a plan. I wasn't going to show up at the spa. I wasn't going to confront them mid-massage or make a scene. That wasn't justice. That was theater. No, I wanted Sarah to tell me. I wanted her to look me in the eye and admit what she'd done. Because if she could lie to me for months, then she owed me the truth even if it destroyed us. So I set the stage. On Thursday morning, I called her office. "Hey, it's me," I said. "Just wanted to let you know, I got called into an emergency meeting with corporate. Gonna be stuck here late. Might not be home till 8. She paused. "Oh. Okay. Everything all right?" "Yeah, just some system crash. Boring stuff." "You?" "Same. Back-to-back depositions." "Have fun," I said, smiling into the phone. "Thanks, babe." We hung up. I waited. At 12:58 p.m. I pulled up outside Spa Serene. Parked 2 blocks away. Watched. At 1:03 p.m. Sarah arrived. Alone. She wore a cream-colored dress, sunglasses, her hair down. She carried a tote bag and walked with purpose. 2 minutes later, Nick appeared. He came from the direction of the parking garage, adjusting his cufflinks, grinning as he spotted her. She turned, smiled wide, radiant, and stepped into his arms. He kissed her. Not on the cheek. On the mouth. Deep. Slow. Familiar. My stomach dropped. But I didn't move. I watched them go inside, hand in hand. I gave them 45 minutes. Then I walked in. The receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said, "come. I'm here to pick up my wife." She frowned. "I'm sorry?" "Sarah Whitmore. She's in the Serenity Suite with Nick Vance. I believe they're finishing up." Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh. I'll check." She picked up the phone, dialed. Spoke softly. Then hung up. "They'll be out in a moment." I nodded, sat in the waiting area. Took out my phone. Scrolled like any normal guy. 5 minutes later, they appeared. Sarah first. Then Nick. Both flushed. Hair slightly disheveled. Nick's tie loose. Sarah froze when she saw me. Her face went pale. Nick's smile vanished. "What are you doing here?" Sarah whispered. "I could ask you the same thing," I said, standing. Nick stepped forward. "Listen, man, we can explain." "No," I said, voice low but firm. "You don't get to speak." I looked at Sarah. "All those Thursdays," I said. "You told me you were working late. Then yoga. Now this." Her lips trembled. "Ethan, How long?" I asked. Silence. 6 months? I said. She looked down. "That long?" I laughed, short, hollow. "And you let me believe it was stress? That I was imagining things?" Nick stepped in again. "Sarah, maybe we should go." "She stays," I said. "This is between us." Sarah looked at him. "Go, Nick. I'll call you." He hesitated. Glanced at me. Then turned and walked out. The receptionist pretended not to watch. Sarah and I stood there, alone in the quiet space. Finally, I said, "Let's go home." We drove in silence. When we got inside, she sat on the couch, hands folded. "I love him," she said. Not "I'm sorry." Not "it was a mistake." I love him. I sat across from her, silent. "He makes me feel seen," she said. Like I matter beyond my job, beyond being someone's wife. With you, I feel safe. But safe isn't enough anymore. I stared at her. All the memories flashed: our first kiss, our wedding, the way she held my hand when my dad died. And now this. You used my name to book hotel rooms, I said. You lied about yoga. You spent our money on spa dates. And you look me in the eye every day and pretend nothing's wrong. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, I said. And not because you fell in love. Because you stopped loving me. She didn't answer. I stood. I need you out, I said. What? This house. My life. I can't wake up every morning wondering which version of you is real. You're kicking me out? I'm giving you a choice, I said. Leave tonight, or I will. But I won't live in a marriage where I'm the last to know my own story. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I never meant to destroy us, she said. But you did, I said. Quietly. Every Thursday. I walked to the bedroom. Packed a bag. Took my father's old pocket watch, my dog Max's leash, the photo of us from Door County. At the door, I paused. I hope he's worth it, I said. Then I left. Behind me, the house went dark. And for the first time in years, I was free. I stayed at Mark and Lisa's for 2 weeks. They didn't ask many questions. Just opened their guest room, fed me lasagna, and let me walk Max along the river every morning like none of it had happened. But I could see it in their eyes, the pity, the anger on my behalf, the quiet judgment they tried to hide. They'd loved Sarah. Considered her family. Now they were torn between loyalty and truth. One night over beers in their backyard, Mark finally said what I'd been avoiding. You gonna fight for her? I looked down at my hands, chipped paint on my thumbnail, dirt under the cuticles from fixing Lisa's garden gate earlier that day. Simple work. Honest. No, I said. She already made her choice. He nodded slowly. You sure? Because if you're just walking away because you're hurt. I'm not walking away because I'm hurt, I said, voice steady. I'm leaving because she did. That was the truth no one wanted to admit. Betrayal isn't always a single act. It's a series of choices. And Sarah had chosen Nick again and again, every Thursday, every lie, every time she kissed him while I heated up leftovers and waited for a text that said on my way. Love doesn't vanish overnight. But trust? Trust shatters like glass. And once it's broken, you can't unbreak it. The divorce wasn't dramatic. No courtroom showdowns. No screaming matches. No accusations flung across a mediator's desk. Sarah called 3 days after I left. Voice soft, tired. I'll move out, she said. I've found a place. Okay, I said. Pause. I'm sorry, Ethan. Truly. I didn't say it's okay. It wasn't. But I said, thank you for saying that. We agreed to split assets fairly. The house would be sold. Retirement accounts divided. Max, our scruffy mutt rescued from a shelter the first year we were married, would stay with me. She didn't even hesitate. He needs you more than I do, she said. Funny thing, when she said that, I almost believed she still knew me. Almost. 3 months passed. Winter came hard that year. Ice on the sidewalks, frost etching the windows, mornings so cold your breath hung in the air like smoke. I moved into a small duplex near the edge of town, 2 bedrooms, a yard too big for one man, but quiet. Peaceful. I started therapy. Not because I thought I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed it all. How a man who prided himself on being observant, on caring deeply, could live beside someone for 5 years and not see the cracks until the whole wall fell. My therapist, Dr. Lang, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and a habit of sipping tea from a chipped mug. You didn't miss it, she told me during our 3rd session. You trusted it. There's a difference. I sat back in the chair. Isn't trusting someone supposed to mean you see clearly? Sometimes, she said. But more often, love means you choose to believe the best. That's not weakness. That's courage. I didn't cry. But something inside me cracked open anyway. Then, one Saturday in January, I saw him. Nick. I was at the hardware store, buying insulation for the drafty attic hatch, when I turned down the paint aisle and there he was, holding a swatch book, talking to a clerk. He looked different. Less polished. Tired around the eyes. His jacket was rumpled, his hair slightly unkempt. Not the man who'd walked into Spa Serene with confidence and a smirk. For a second, I considered turning around. But I didn't. Instead, I walked straight toward him. He saw me. Stiffened. "Ethan," he said. "Hey. Nick." We stood there, paint chips between us, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. "I heard you two split," he said carefully. "Yeah," I said. "Thanks for asking." He winced. "Look, You don't get to explain," I said, calm. "You don't get to justify. You took someone who was happy, who was mine, and you rewrote her story without her even knowing she'd forgotten the truth." "She wasn't happy," he said quietly. "That's not for you to decide," I said. "You didn't fix her. You used her. And when she chose you, she didn't choose love. She chose escape." He didn't argue. Just stared at the floor. "After a beat," he said, "she ended it. 2 weeks ago." I blinked. "What?" "We've been drifting. After everything. She said she couldn't keep lying. To you. To herself. To me." He exhaled. "Turns out, building a relationship on someone else's wreckage doesn't hold up." I felt nothing. No victory. No sadness. Just silence. And then, faintly, relief. Because if she'd left him too, then maybe she wasn't lost. Maybe she was just confused. And confusion can heal. Betrayal? That leaves scars. That night, I sat on my porch with Max curled at my feet, watching snowfall and slow, silent waves. My phone buzzed. A text. From Sarah. "Can we talk? Not about us. Just as people who loved each other once. Coffee? Tomorrow?" I stared at the screen. Snowflakes melted on the glass. I thought about the years we shared. The laughter. The quiet mornings. The way she used to hum Purple Rain in the shower. And I thought about the lies. The Thursdays. The name Callahan on a hotel receipt. I typed. Yes. But not coffee. A walk. 9 a.m. Riverfront Park. Bring gloves. It's cold out. She replied instantly. Okay. Thank you. We met under the old oak tree near the footbridge, the same spot where we'd had our first real argument, 5 years ago, about whether The Shining was horror or tragedy. She said horror. I said both. She wore a heavy coat, boots, a scarf wrapped tight. Her breath puffed in the air. "You look good," she said. "So do you." Silence. Not awkward. Just full. "I meant what I said," she began. "I loved you. I do love pieces of what we had. But I got lost. And instead of finding my way back, I ran." I nodded. "I know. I thought Nick was freedom. But he was just another version of the same trap, someone who wanted me to be someone else. Lighter. Bolder. Always on. And I wasn't enough for that." "No," she said. Not enough. Just different." And I stopped trying to bridge the gap. "I blamed you for being steady while I wanted sparks." "Sparks burn out," I said. "Steady lasts." She smiled, sad, knowing. "Yeah. I'm learning that now." We walked in silence for a while, side by side, not touching. Finally, I said, "I hope you find peace, Sarah." She looked at me. "Do you hate me?" "No," I said honestly. I grieved you. 4 months. But hate? That's too much energy. You were human. Flawed. Scared. So was I. She wiped her eye. I ruined everything. You made choices, I said. Now we both live with them. At the end of the path, we stopped. She turned to me. Are you okay? I thought about it. Not the easy answer. The real one. I'm healing, I said. Some days are hard. But I wake up now and feel like me again. Not half of a couple. Not a victim. Just Ethan. She nodded, tears falling freely now. Good, she whispered. You deserve that. We hugged. Brief. Final. Like closing a book you loved but no longer need to read. Then she walked away. I watched her go. And when she turned the corner, I turned mine. 6 months later, I adopted a second dog, a rescue border collie mix named Scout. I started taking photography classes at the community college. I visit my mom every Sunday. We garden together. And sometimes, on clear nights, I drive up to the bluff outside town and look at the city lights below. No anger. No longing. Just space. And sky. And the quiet certainty that I survived. Not because I got revenge. Not because I won. But because I chose to keep going. And in the end, that's the only victory that matters. Because the man who gets cheated on? He doesn't have to stay broken. He can become someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who knows deep in his bones that love shouldn't make you disappear. It should help you remember who you are. And if it doesn't? Then it's not love. It's just a door. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is close it.